Welcome to the Transforming Lives panel podcast. I am one of your hosts, Sharmin Prince, and we have Mitzi here, and we also have a guest today. But it's customary for us that we start our podcast with a grounding exercise. So if it's possible and you can close your eyes, you can just take a moment and just take a deep breath in through your nostrils and out through your mouth and just relax and forget all that happened today, all that you have to do, and just be present with us for the next 45 minutes. Uh, Breathe in, feel your breath going through your body, let go of any stress or tension you may find. And just come with us on this journey for the next 45 minutes as we get into our podcast. And welcome. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Mitzi. Thank you, Ashaka. Mitzi, how was your week?
Had a great week. Very, very busy week. I made some significant changes in my real estate business, joined a new brokerage. So it's been a little bit of a flurry of activity.
Oh, great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Awesome. That's awesome.
So, thank you, Ashaka, for joining us. Um, Ashaka is a 32-year-old Guyanese influencer who is a student of life. We will ask her about that later on. Her expertise includes fashion business management and international trade and marketing. She's also the owner of Pieces and Ting, a boutique in Guyana. So, Ashaka, we want to welcome you and thank you for being our first Guyanese guest and our first guest for your generation. So, you are setting the trend here. Thank you for accepting and welcome.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
So, Ashaka, did I leave out anything out of that brief bio?
No, but you did add in. You said that I'm an influencer, and even that is a term that I think I shy away from labels.
Hmm.
I shy away from labels because I feel as though they box you in, or when you have a label attached to you, people have this standard of expectation that they would have perceived, and like a preconceived notion of who you're supposed to be and how you're supposed to act. And I'm way more than that. So do I found, even in completing this exercise, because I had to do the bio twice. I had to do the form twice, full disclosure. And I was like, upon the second time, I realized that no, I'm just uncomfortable. I don't know. But no, you didn't leave anything out. To circle back to your question, you didn't leave anything out. I believe that a student of life encapsulates everything that I am. I'm
Hmm.
still learning, I'm still growing, I'm still becoming, I'm still getting comfortable being in certain rooms and in certain spaces, being the first, being the youngest, being the eldest. I'm at a very, very weird place in my life because, like you guys remember when you were in your 30s, right? It's like you're not as young, but you're not old. You're right there on the cusp of something that it's new. So, yeah.
You know what? I think you'll find that as you age, almost every age you get to is kind of like that. There's like these continuing, ongoing shifts in who we are and what we're doing and our growth, and it doesn't stop after you get out of your 30s. It just changes and morphs and becomes something different. It's a continuing wave that goes through our life.
Right. Right.
Exactly. So, Ashaka, what led you to pursue fashion business management?
Okay, so coming from Guyana and the the dynamics that we have here, meaning that in our country, education, and especially in our race, our racial, I would say, socialization, education plays a pivotal role in our identity. And I went to one of the most prestigious schools and in Guyana, and I remember the thing for Caribbean Black people that are smart, it's either that you become a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, right? So it's like that was like kind of set out for me already or expected of me. And I found that a lot of Nigerians experience the same thing. I don't know what what that is and why that is. But I remember being in school and just not wanting to be a lawyer. So I remember um my headmistress had once asked me, she said, "What do you want to be?" This I was in fifth form, which is high school. We are about to write our exit exam, CXEs, and she stopped me. She's like, "What do you want to be?" And I said to her, "I don't know. I just want to make a difference."
Hmm.
And it was along that path that, well, my mom and my stepmom, so the most influential women in my life, my mother was definitely an entrepreneur and a businesswoman. My stepmom, she was a customs broker. And I'm making reference to this because I've never seen any woman in my life get up and clock in like a 9 to 5, ever. They always were on their own time and stuff like that. So I guess entrepreneurship was in my bloodline, and definitely if it's nature nurture, it was definitely what I would have been exposed to. So, um one summer I was in New York City. I stumbled upon something that Guyana did not have. I was like, okay, let me do this. And it morphed into what is known now as one of the most formidable fashion brands that we have in Guyana. It started at a very young age. And you asked what made me choose fashion business management? Well, I'm guessing because I am an intellectual at heart, I did get to a place in my career where I felt like I was putting in the hours, putting in the work. I had the passion, I had the zeal, but there was like a glass ceiling that I was hitting. Like I felt as though I needed more success. And I decided that, okay, it's time to go back to school. So coming out of high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know what I wanted to be. I stumbled upon that path of fashion because it felt right. But I went back to school to study business management and fashion business management because I wanted to get the science down pat. And that's where we are. That's why I chose it. Mhm.
Cool. So what is your business like? Like, what is day to day business for you? Who are your clients? Or kind of walk us through, tell our audience sort of, you know, what you do as an entrepreneur, what your business looks like, and a little bit about. You gave us some of the uh, leading up to how you got there, but kind of tell us a little bit more about it so we have a better understanding of what it is you do.
Okay, so as we speak, Pieces and Things is embarking on a relaunch. So we are day to day right now. It's not up and running. However, we are slated to relaunch within 21 days. So by before the end of the month, we will be up and operating. Now, um, our target audience our target audience is women like myself, where we are college educated and industrious, a bit eclectic. And, I personally believe that smart women deserve to look the best. That's just how I feel. So that's the target audience that I cater to. And why I say that, I feel as though when we are smart and, you know, industrious and we're in that field of taking on a very what society deems as the masculine role, we tend to neglect ourselves. That's just how it is on this side of the world. So, and I felt as though, no, I believe that hardworking women, whether they're at home or out there in the fields, I believe that as a woman, we're supposed to put ourselves first. And we're supposed to put our best foot forward and our best face forward. So that's the target and that's the purpose of the brand, to ensure that we're not just brains, that we that it's okay to be beauty too. And it's not superfluous, and there's no shame in that, you know. Where we're from on our side of the world, and I keep making reference to that because I know that in America it's way more liberated, you know. But where we're from, they kind of say that, like, to be into beauty is what is the word? It's kind of like looked down upon, you know? As a matter of fact, it's only recently that the industries have started to embrace uh fashion and beauty and creatives, you know, as being people of worth and value. Even where, again, over here on this side of the world, being in arts, uh, we're now getting some amount of value. So yeah. The day-to-day, circling back to your answer to your question, the day-to-day of pieces and things isn't really up and running right now, but I did give you some amount of insight as to who we are targeting.
So if I understand you correctly, one of the things that you've really found in Guyana is that you sort of people are either kind of categorized into brains or beauty. And what you're saying is, hey, you can have both brains and beauty
Right.
and embrace the whole. And we're going to provide a shopping environment for you that celebrates both your beauty and your brains. Is that correct?
Correct. Correct. And it's a shopping experience for you, because I find that a lot of women, they work really hard and they neglect themselves. So the service that we provide is basically catering to you. So outside of just being a boutique, in that break that I would have taken, outside of just being a shopping place, we also now offer services. Now, this is kind of like an exclusive because the girls don't know this yet, but we will be offering services, personal shopping services and styling services, to give you a more holistic um approach to your own fashion and your own style, to make you feel comfortable, and, you know, you set your own standards. So yeah.
So is Pieces and Things a retail location or locations or an online location or both?
As we stand, we are completely online, www.piecesandthings.com. Over the course of my career, we would have had retail locations, but as with COVID, we closed, and we went completely online. It was amazing, and I do intend for us to have locations again within the next phase and wave of the business journey.
So tell us what led you to start Pieces and Things, and how long have you been in the fashion industry?
Okay, I thought I mentioned it earlier. Okay, so what led me is uh repeat the question.
What led you to start Pieces and Things, and how long have you been in the fashion industry?
Okay, so I've officially been in the fashion industry for, how old am I? I would guess 13 years now. But I did I did start it wasn't called Pieces and Things, but I did start at the age of 16, which would have made it 16 years. So I opened my first business at 19.
Mm,
I did my first I did my first shipment at the age of 19. Registered the business, got the name Pieces and Things. Before Pieces and Things, it was called Teen Flair because I was a teenager. But I started doing accessories, went into the mecca of accessories down there on Broadway and Sixth Avenue in New York City, stumbled upon I believe at that time it was Iswani, and I was just like in heaven. Um, what's funny too? There was a store on Carroll Avenue called Pieces, and that resonated with me so deeply. And I was like, that's a beautiful name. That's a beautiful name. But I didn't want to copy the person's name. And I stewed on it for like months until one night it just came to me. So that's what started it. I've always been complimented on my look in high school, growing up. And I always knew there was a difference between how I look compared to my friends, not knowing, not being aware of economic struggles and stuff like that. When I just had access because my mom is well traveled. Like I said, she's an entrepreneur. So I've always been all over the world with my mother. And coming between America on summer vacations and stuff like that. In the Caribbean, we get barrels and we get boxes. And so mommy is being. And I just assumed that the reason why my friends weren't able to look like me was because they didn't have the things that I had and the access to the things that I had. So when I saw the accessories, I was like, oh, let me bring it home to Guyana. They don't have that there. This is going to help them look better. No, they also needed the money to buy it. I didn't know that at the time. Thought that everybody had money. 16, totally, I wasn't aware. So yeah, that's where it started. And it has now morphed into from just selling accessories, just selling jewelry. We started selling clothing, providing, a full wardrobe for women. And now we have morphed into now providing services. We are now a fashion and lifestyle brand because our mantra is live, breathe fashion, living life fashionably. I believe that, if it's for you, it's for you. And it's going to be as in if being your authentic self is being who you are, not just in the boardroom or not just at border market, but at home, you know. And I think that the women deserve to have that expression. It's easier. Access is still a big thing for women on this side of the world, women in the Caribbean, you know. So that's what I'm bringing. I'm bringing access and expression to the West Indies.
So when you think of fashionable women and sort of the women that inspired you from a fashion standpoint, who were your inspirations? Who are your inspirations?
My mom, my mother is the most fashionable woman that I know.
And
My
when you say she's fashionable, what does that mean
To me,
to you and to our vision? What does being quote fashionable mean?
my mother was the most put together woman that I have ever come across. Like touch and feel, I mean, from head to toe, always in showing up in every aspect of her life, whether it be going to church, going to the gym. My mother was always very well put together, and her style was also very versatile. And I looked at that and I admired that my mother was always put together. I mean, her hair being slick, her toes, her nails, and not very extravagant or flamboyant, but neat and paying keen attention to detail. That was my mom. Compared to other women that showed up some of the time, compared to other women that you never caught, I never, you, back in the day, and my mother got me at 40. So this is me at 8 years old looking at my mother and observing, you know. So she would have had her seasoned lifestyle, you know, having given birth to me at 40. So she was already well into her journey of womanhood. But when compared to other women that just did not have their things, their self together, like they were only together some of the time. Some women, you know, they clean up nice. My mother was clean all the time. And so that has been my biggest, she had been my inspiration, you know, before I even understood. And now I know that, like, even now that I'm speaking, she had time. She had time to get there because I struggle. You know, I struggle. I'm not on all the time. I'm not even on right now. My mother would never. She would have never. So I understand that it takes time to get there. So there's that grace too. And then uh my stepmom, she was more, I would say, of a more of she had more like realistic and attainable standards. She was really put together. She she paid great emphasis to the way that she took care of me very well. You know, I don't know if she was trying to live up to the standards that my mom had set, but I know my stepmother took care of me very well. But I make mention of her because someone had brought to my attention that I always have my nails done. And they were like, who did you get that from? And I was like, oh my gosh, it's my stepmom. Because if it was one thing that she would have done all the time, now she would have been rough at home or what's not. She was not as fashionable as my mom, but her self-care always involved getting her nails done. And I didn't even realize until, right, right. And I didn't even realize until like last year is when I realized that like somebody brought it to my attention. So the influences in my life definitely come from my mother and my stepmother, not only in the way that you look, but in the way of being.
You know, it's really interesting when you were mentioning that, you know, I think back to my childhood and my mother was like your mother. She was always put together and my mother always had her nails done. And I've been doing my nails since I was like 13 and I always eye cream and like because I just saw that as that example of you put yourself together and you know, I don't go out the front door without makeup on because it's like my head head space. You know, you have to be put together if you're going out the front door.
And completely presentable. And I've started to do that. I've started to do that for myself too. And like I just mentioned, you know, it's grace, giving myself grace and also allowing myself to become who I want to be, you know, fighting for that person who I want to be. Because there was a point in time in my life where I was rebellious and I was like, I'm gonna show up anyhow or how I feel like they're gonna have to accept me. However, but no, I have some amount of control as to how I'm being perceived, and I think that that's very important. So, yeah. So I'm getting to where you are is what I'm saying, where, you know, making sure like, okay, so my makeup now is I make sure that I have sunscreen on. I don't show up in this, I don't go out this house without sunscreen because, you know, being a bit more conscious of aging, I want to make sure that I preserve how I look. You know, and a little bit of vanity is okay. A little bit of vanity is okay. So that's where we are.
What are some of the tips that you could give our listeners and viewers as to some of the quick things that you can do, some of the quick accessories or things with your makeup or, you know, that somebody can do to help get themselves feeling put together? What are some of your tips and ideas for our listeners?
Okay, so off the top of my head, in no particular order, let's start with your hair. I believe that every woman, the viewers may not be able to see me, but I have a bald head. And the reason why I have a bald head is because uh, doing my hair was it was time consuming for me. And I found that this was the neatest and the quickest way to maintain a look, you know, a well put together look. I believe that every woman, despite her race or her age, is supposed to find a look for her here that she can maintain seamlessly in and out of season, whether she's up or down financially, and she needs to learn how to do it herself. Many women only know how to go to the hair salon. They cannot keep themselves up. It is important that we're able to keep ourselves up and keep ourselves together. I believe that when it comes to your wardrobe, investing in good basics is going to save you. It's going to save you time. It's going to save you money. And again, it's always going to have you well put together. And I mean, good jeans, a good pair of jeans, good trousers. And, if you normally shop at, let's say, the better value stores, when it comes to your basics, go up a notch. You don't have to go designer, but go up a notch. Spend a little bit more on your basics, because you are going to, these are the pieces that you're going to resort to more often. So your white shirt, your black shirt, your shoes, those basic neutral colors, invest in those, because it's gonna save you time and it's gonna save you money. What else would I say? Ah, I read this. Mascara and foundation and lip gloss keeps you groomed brows, mascara, foundation, and lip gloss. It brings you to life, and it shows Oscar de la Renta, I believe, said that it's good manners to dress properly. You know, it's good manners to put your best foot forward, and it's quick, it's easy, it's 5 minutes. Having your brows groomed, slap on some foundation. It doesn't have to be anything heavy, sheer coverage, put on some mascara, wake your eyes up, and some lip gloss, and you're good to go. When it comes to jewelry, or accessories, I think clean and simple is good to go. You can have a pair of hoops, pair of studs, a ring, a wristwatch, and that's it. You know, simple, simple but clean. It it's easy to do, easy to replicate, and I think I know it'll work wonders. It'll work wonders.
So what are some of the biggest mistakes that you see people making when it comes to not being put together? What are some of the sort of I mean, we can all think of the people walking wearing socks and Crocs. I mean, that's the first thing that leaps into my mind when I think of it. But what are some of those other major fashion faux pas that you sort of see people making? And if you were to, want to give them a few little tips, sort of say, "Yeah, I want to rethink this."
Enough. Socks and Crocs is relative, because some people will actually make that look good. It's funky, you know what I mean? So it depends on your personal aesthetic. But the first thing that popped into my mind and that I didn't make mention of as a tip was actually for women. Uh, ill-fitting underwear. I think for me that's one of the that makes you look unsightly. That makes you look not put together, unsightly bulges, your VPL, your bra strap hanging off. Um, it's not it, yeah, like, no. I think that for me, that's like the biggest faux pas. The second thing is when clothes are too tight. Some women, we either have to lose inches around the waistline or add inches onto the waistline with our jeans. Like, stop squeezing yourself into clothing. You look uncomfortable. You are uncomfortable. Leave it alone. It's okay. Size up. It's fine. Or and the last thing is, stop caring so much about what people think. They're really not, like, the fashion rules are meant to be broken. Once you feel comfortable, once you feel good in it, wear it with confidence, as long as you feel good. Now, you can't tell me you feel good with your hair disheveled and food in your teeth and, eye crust in your eyes. Like, you can't tell me you feel, I mean, maybe you could, but Once you put in the work and you feel good with what you're wearing, then forget the rules. There are no rules in fashion. Fashion shines when you're confident.
What are some of the things you've learned being an entrepreneur, a young entrepreneur? Did you have a mentor? Um, how did you make it? What are some nuggets that you learn along the way that if a young person, a 19-year-old is thinking about getting into the business, what would be how would you guide and mentor that person?
Okay, so no, I didn't have a mentor. And honestly, at 19, 18, I didn't know enough to know to look to a mentor simply because in my on my side, I was deemed as a pioneer. There weren't many people that were doing it. And um, so I didn't know who to turn to. And that would be my first guidance for a young woman coming in or a young person coming into business. One, to trust themselves, but also to be willing and open to learn from others. Do seek out a mentor. Do read books on people that would have traveled the path before you. Do be open to learning. And um, being a being a student, but not necessarily a copycat,
Hmm.
because what you're bringing to the table is valuable too. So I had to go through feeling as though I knew it all, then feeling as though I knew nothing, and merging the two, knowing that where I am and what I have is enough, and being open to receiving more, and being open to receiving knowledge from Gen Z, because I'm a millennial, being open to receiving knowledge from Gen Z and those that are also coming or that have also walked this path before me. And that's why I say that I'm a student of life, because you don't know where the lessons are going to be coming from. You just need to be open to receiving them. So, yeah, you want to do, but you also want to be open to learning. And that will be my advice.
It's a great piece of advice, and very true as we go through life, right? You never know when those opportunities are going to come and who's going to give you some inspiration that you weren't expecting, or give you that little nugget of something that can just shift something dramatically for you. Uh, as part of being put together and sort of feeling successful, do you have any kind of self-care rituals? Like, do you do any meditation or journaling or any of those types of things? Is that part of what you do, or or exercise, or talk about some of those types of things that sort of are outside of work itself, but obviously go to the whole person?
Right. So I've started my mental health journey in 2020. Am I allowed to say? Yeah. So I've started, well, don't want to delve too deeply, but I've started my mental health journey in 2020. And I when it comes to practices to keep me grounded, what do I do? It depends. So I go into what I call my toolkit. And, in my toolkit, there are different tools that will help me at different times. So like right now, the tool that I'm utilizing is my gratitude lists. And so every morning for right now, this season, I get up and I write, before I start anything, I write 10 things that I'm grateful for. And what that does, it brings me centered. So to answer your question, yes, I make sure that I practice centering exercises at every season in my life. Uh, some weeks I book my therapist for 6 week sessions or 8 week sessions, so that, and it's normally like before for like it's navigating or keeping me anchored and keeping me centered. Other weeks I would do exercising. My goal for myself is to have these, like, to incorporate all of my tools in my toolkit into my everyday life. We're gonna get there, but we're not there right now. But I do something. Another thing that I do, and I do that very consistently, I make sure that I unplug and I unwind and I sit down, I relax, and I have a glass of wine or I have lunch. I do solo dates a lot. I do solo dates a lot. Um, where I really don't want anybody there. I want to sit there and I want to observe. And I'm open to meeting people, but I don't go with anyone, you know? Um, that's a piece of luxury for me. And it's something that I hold near and dear. So that I do at least 4 times a month. Now,
That's
some
great.
weeks, yeah, thank you. Some weeks you might see me doing it 3 times within the week, but yeah, I do solo dates all the time.
Excellent. Excellent. Is traveling something that you've done? And if so, or, other than Guyana, which I understand is beautiful and I haven't yet gotten the chance to get to.
Can't wait to see you here. So yes, so just recently traveling has become hectic for me. I'm guessing because I was traveling all of my life. The last time I was on a plane, it I hated it. I hated the experience. I don't like traveling right now. But yeah, right now. Uh but it is something that I want to start doing leisurely. So just like I leisurely go out to eat, I'm gonna now start incorporating traveling as a leisurely experience into my life. I think I think what it was is that because I would have started business so early on, every time I traveled, it was more so for the purpose of business, and I would sneak in some fun. I've never traveled for the purpose of fun, like except once or twice, you know?
Right.
And yeah, and I guess because my mother was such a, like, there's been guilt surrounding just spending money on fun. There was a lot of guilt so I'm working on unpacking that too. Hmm.
So, Ashaka, in closing, if our listeners want to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
We reopen at the end of the month, at the end of March. So if you want to get in contact with us, you can contact at piecesandthings.com. That's the email, or you can shop piecesandthings.com. You can follow us online, any social media, whether it be TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. The handles are Pieces and Things. And if you really, really, really want to get in contact with me, you can do Ashaka King, which is, on social media, all handles. Yeah, Ashaka King.
Fabulous. Well, thank you so much for sharing your journey with us and giving us some insight into the life of a young entrepreneur building their business and going through a bit of a relaunch. We appreciate you spending some time with us. And I'm sure it's going to help a lot of our listeners and our viewers get some new insight into building their own brand.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. And I pray that it was insightful.
Thank you. Thank
And
you for participating, Ashaka. And I am sure that you're going to attract millennials to our podcast,
I would,
being the first. And I am sure you have inspired um, persons from your generation because you have an inspiring story. It takes bravery to start a business at 19 or 18 without a mentor, without a guide. So I hope that you pat yourself on the shoulder and give yourself a hug. Great. This has been Transforming Lives Panel Podcast, and we want to thank you for participating with us and see you during our next episode.